Republicans are expressing alarm. They're not going to the 25th Amendment level, but the Republicans I've been talking to on Capitol Hill, they're privately saying, and I wrote about this for the Post this week, that they're concerned the president's plummeting in the polls. He's walking away from the negotiating table with the stimulus. And you see people like Senator John Cornyn, a conservative in Texas, saying he's disappointed with the president on the pandemic. Is the GOP finally starting to crack when it comes to President Trump, or is this just another round of muted grumbling?
Well, I think crack is a little too strong. I think there's certainly there's reservations, there's doubt. There's also a rock and a hard place for them. You know, they're 3+ weeks out from an election. They will pay a price back home if they move away from the president. They know that. That's been the lesson of the last 3+ years. And so I think they have to sort of live with the consequences. But what worries them, Bob, is if you look inside, for example, our Wall Street Journal NBC News poll after the presidential debate, you start to see erosion in the Trump base, which you haven't seen before. You see senior citizens moving against the president. You see working class white men now moving against the president. He still wins that group, but there's been erosion in that support. And so the one thing Republicans who had their doubts about the president could always tell themselves before now was the base is solid, the Trump base will help me. I think there's now some doubt about that. And on top of that, you have other groups like suburban women who continue to move south. So there's a lot to be worried about if you're a Republican senator in a swing state running for re-election this year.
Yamiche, all the points Jerry laid out on polling, is that why the president came back to the negotiating table on Friday, Secretary Mnuchin engaging with Speaker Pelosi on a stimulus deal?
That's probably part of it, but I think the other part of it is that there was real backlash within the Republican Party when President Trump took that surprising step and said that he was going to be calling off negotiations to this COVID-19 relief package, and he wanted senators to instead focus on the confirmation of Judge Barrett. So this was a Democratic talking point long before the president made this move. The Democrats had been saying the president wants to think about himself. He wants to think about his nominee. He doesn't care about the American people. So then when the president took that move, there were airline companies who said we're going to have to keep on furloughing employees. There were people who were saying, well, millions of people are out of work. How are you going to just stop negotiating? How are you going to just essentially say, I'll talk to you after the election? So I think the president heard from a lot of people, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, who said this is not good for down ballot Republicans who are going to have to then essentially defend the president, saying, sorry, you can't get more stimulus check. The other thing I should note is that the president's announcement came just a few hours after the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, said if there wasn't another stimulus bill, that the recovery that is going faster than he thought, that it could falter, that it could be thrown into disarray. He even said that the consequences could be tragic. That was the word he used. So I think the president had to take in all of that backlash, and that's why you see the White House now saying, actually, let's play ball, let's put up another proposal.
I was talking to a Republican senator today privately, and they said they think a deal is possible because House Democrats want it. The president needs it now politically. So if you're on the edge of your seat tonight wondering, it seems like there are some shoots out there, some optimism, but you never know in Washington.